And just tell me a little bit about was there a particular reason that you showed up today? Is there a particular system that you'd like me to spend some time on? I don't want you to get the impression that I'm unprepared. I just want to make sure that you get what you came for. Anyone can start.
Well, I just wasn't sure with the financial system what part of it you were going to go over. But is it just kind of like how to set up your financial system? Like that's what I'd be interested in, kind of just
yeah, absolutely. And
like how to get it all set up as a realtor and everything else. That would be helpful.
Okay. Anything else that you would love to cover today?
That would be my main part.
Okay. Do you have any specific questions around that, or just kind of answer that question broadly?
Well, I guess it's just I know I haven't set up like an LLC and all that kind of stuff yet, and I know I need to do that, but I just haven't had like the revenue part to worry about it too much.
Okay. No, I think that's fair.
And then, I mean, I have an accountant and other things, but I guess I just need to make sure I'm tracking the right stuff and in the right place and you know, doing those things the right way from the beginning. So I'm not scrambling.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What is your first name? It's Jaidev. Is that right?
Hey, yeah. I think actually that's I don't know, somehow my husband's phone is registered. That's me, Radhika. I'm going to rename myself. So I just recently started. It's been hardly 2 months. So I was not sure whether this is the class for me, but I really wanted to go more onto, you know, the smart systems which Keller offers, you know, command and things like that. And as a new person, how best can we start? I know she mentioned about setting an LLC. That's a great one. I was planning to do that over the weekend.
Okay.
But how does one start? You know, as you are very new in real estate, like as new as 2 months. I just pretty much got my license a couple months ago. So.
Okay, perfect. So let me cover. Let me start by covering some of the financial basics. And my hunch is that there'll be some questions that come from that, and we'll take it in the direction that's most important to you guys. So my caveat to all of this is that I am not a hang on just 1 second. I just sent a message to my assistant to see if she can help me find a particular document. But here's what I'm not a CPA, right? I don't follow my financial advice, but I will tell you from having paid taxes as a real estate agent for 15 years, some of the things that are most relevant. Okay. So I will throw them all out there, and you guys can take notes, and we'll come back to anything that needs more attention. So with small exceptions, essentially everything, and there's some limits to this, but most everything that you do or spend money on in an effort to grow or build your business or any business function, so to speak, is most likely deductible. So these things would include if you pay somebody to do any of your marketing or social media or data entry or make flyers or clerical stuff, if you're paying somebody to put your listings in, if you are paying somebody to do contract to close, if you pay somebody on Fiverr to build a flyer for you, if you go to the store and buy cookies or coffee or balloons for an open house, if you buy a new computer for to be used in your business, if you're using, you know, office paper or printers or an iPad or, you know, any of that kind of stuff that you could legitimately explain how that is a function of your business and why it was necessary to invest in it, that is almost certainly something that can be deductible. Okay. Now, what I mean by deductible, just so you guys are clear on this, is you're going to take all of the gross income, right? The number of dollars that Keller Williams pays you, right? And ordinarily, that's the number that you would pay federal taxes on, well, federal and state taxes on. When we say deductible, let's say that number is $150,000. When we talk about deductible expenses, we just add up all that stuff that I just described, and I'll show you some different categories here in a second. Let's say that's 50 grand. Then instead of paying taxes on 150, you pay taxes on 100, the net of the two. Okay, so that's the idea. Now, we always teach the concept of leading with revenue. Okay, and I will tell you, if you guys are interested in selling something to someone, you should build a product for realtors because they'll buy anything. Okay, if they will buy anything. Hey, it's only 30 bucks a month. You just have one transaction your whole career and it'll pay for itself. And before you know it, you got $30 things and you don't use any of them. Right? So we have a lot of resources at Keller Williams. The vast majority of them are free. So my first piece of advice to you is don't go running off spending a ton of money that you haven't earned yet. Okay. Some of the financial predictors that we talk about is that you should be getting at least a 3 to 4 times return on every dollar you spend. So for example, let's say I hire an assistant and I pay that assistant $45,000, then the fact that that assistant is in place should create 4 times that type of revenue. Okay, so that's $180,000. If I can't go make $180,000 because that assistant is in place, then that assistant is either I'm not doing the right thing with the time that was freed up by that assistant being in my world, or that assistant's not doing their job, or a combination of the two. Does that make sense? Okay, so
Quick question on that. If you hire an assistant or anyone like that, is that deductible or is that different because it's a person, or you just, I mean, it's not deductible in the same way as like office supplies, right?
The truth is it depends. It is depending on what that person does for you. And like the IRS, for example, has like a questionnaire basically that says, is the person that you are paying an employee or are they a contract worker? So like, for example, if I pay somebody $1,000 over the course of the year to make flyers for me, then that is a marketing expense, right? So I could deduct that as marketing. If I require that that person, be at the office at a certain time and can't leave before a certain time, right, and can't work for anyone else, and a number of other questions that the IRS would ask you, they would potentially consider that person to be an employee. That changes everything, right? Then you should potentially have them on payroll, and depending on all kinds of other regulations, you may have to provide healthcare stipends or health insurance, or it can get a lot hairier fast. But good news is there are payroll companies that can guide you through those types of decisions, that make sure that you stay compliant and make sure that you keep appropriate records and all that stuff. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Let me see where, so the first takeaway is lead with revenue. Okay, we were like, $30 here, $30 there, no big deal. Before you know it, you haven't had any closings and you owe a bunch of people 30 bucks a month. Okay. Sharon, have you been in that position before?
I have not, but I almost was in it. I did do the camp for Facebook. We won't talk about that disaster. But I've had so many people that have been coming at me like $139 a month, and I'm starting to think the same thing. So when I came on, I almost laughed because you were talking, because somebody just reached out to me about an hour ago for another opportunity. So that's funny.
Okay, so what I don't want you to hear is that all $30 pitches or $140 pitches are bad investments.
Yeah.
Right? So anytime, let's say a salesperson comes to you and says, hey, I got an idea for you, or here's the software, here's this thing or whatever, and it costs $100 bucks. The first thing you should say is, have I earned the right to make this investment?
Right.
Second thing you should say to yourself is, has there been anyone ever that's invested in this before? And can I go speak to them? Right? Now, if I was to say to you, hey, Sharon, I got a plan, it's $10,000 a month, but it's guaranteed to make you $30,000 a month. And here's a list of 15 people that I've sold it to that have had those results. Does that mean $10,000 a month is a bad investment? Actually, I would argue the opposite, right? So there's a certain amount of research that needs to go into all of these decisions. Not only should you be able to prove that it's affordable, but you should be able to prove that the return is acceptable, right? And you generally confirm that stuff by speaking with people, by the way, not the salesperson, right? Speaking with people that have purchased that or been involved in that program before to tell you what the good parts about it are and what the lousy parts about it are. Okay. Now, I will tell you, all of you guys are capable of finding business for free though, right? It's free to walk around and knock on doors. It's virtually free to host an open house, right? It's virtually free to make phone calls to strangers or to speak to your database or to post things on social media. Don't be in such a hurry to go throw money at problems, okay? Remember, when you have a challenge, right? When you've identified something that needs to get done, you basically have two options. You're either going to use your time to deal with it, or you're going to use your money to deal with it. And your money is essentially just somebody else's time, right? So if the grass needs to get cut, I can either do it myself, or I can hire somebody to do it, right? If the listing needs to get put in, I can either do it myself, or I can hire somebody to do it. And the way that you're going to know when you should do certain things is by having clarity on, I don't like to say it quite this way, but like, what are you worth, right? So for example, like I was listening to a podcast, this is a long time ago, but I was listening to a podcast and they were interviewing this guy after he had just finished his first year in real estate. And of course, he was tracking everything because he was taught to track everything, right? How many contacts, how many appointments, how much time he spent working, what his income was, all that, right? And if you multiplied and divided it all out, he was worth $50 an hour, which in my opinion is really low. It's probably more like $300-400 an hour once you get things going, right? But let's just say $50 was his number. So he then said, well, I no longer do anything ever that I don't get any satisfaction from that I could pay somebody less than $50 an hour to do, right? So that, for example, would be, I don't cut shrubs anymore. I don't fold laundry anymore. I don't mow my grass anymore, right? I don't, whatever, right? Because number one, I don't get any satisfaction from it. I'm not suggesting, yeah, you could probably pay somebody to pick your kids up at school for less than $50 an hour, but I think you probably get some satisfaction from that, right? So you got to determine what you get fulfillment from and what you're willing to allow somebody else to do. Make sense? So lead with revenue, research all your expenses before you make them. Okay, you are not the first person they're trying to pitch this thing to. You got to go figure out what the reviews are, post it on one of the groups and say, hey, I chatted with this company today. Can anyone share with me positives and negatives privately, right? Don't encourage negativity publicly and online, right? Just say, hey, if you had an experience with this company, could you ping me and tell me what you loved and what you didn't love? See what I'm saying? Okay, did that answer your question on that, Ryan, for the moment? Okay. I'm going to see if I can keep looking for what I'm looking for, but ultimately, what I want you to do is any expenses that you make in the function of running your business, you should at the very least record, okay? Save the credit card statements, save the receipts, right? If you go to a training program and it costs $10 to park there, save that receipt, right? All of that kind of stuff. Now, I am not very good at this, doing it monthly. I generally do it, unfortunately, like last minute when my CPA is like, dude, seriously, I cannot extend this anymore, right? I can see you smiling, Lorinda, right? but I'm going to encourage you to build a system where every month, let's say, you are you're kind of confirming that all the money that you're choosing to spend is worthwhile, right? Is giving you the return that you expect. Now, some of these things, like let's take Bold, for example. Okay. Bold cost $800. Are you going to get a return? It's hard to say. Hey, what's up? Are you going to get a return? Yeah, if you do the work, right? You're making an investment in yourself. You have to bet on yourself. If you do the program, if you do everything they say to do, you're going to absolutely quadruple that investment, probably more. But if you half-ass it, you may not get it back, right? So you got to ask yourself, like, am I going to give it my all if I'm prepared to make an investment like this? Like, one family reunion is in February. I think it's going to be in Orlando this year. So for example, going to Orlando and, you know, getting a cab from the airport to the hotel and spending a few nights at the hotel and spending a bunch of money at bars and restaurants and, you know, buying all the stuff you got to buy when you're out of town, like that could easily be $3,000-$4,000. Will you meet somebody who will probably teach you something that will help you make a lot more than that? Of course. But if you don't have $4,000, you might not be able to pull it off, right? So my encouragement is you want to build up reserves so that you don't have to say to yourself, well, I think Bold will work, I just don't have the money to do it. You see what I'm saying? So opportunities come to those that have the capital, right? And that have the influence. Okay. All right. So with that said, we're going to be recording all of the things that we spend money on. Okay. And obviously we're going to be recording the money that we earn, right? So at any one time we can say, okay, well, I've paid X number of dollars to the Market Center and I've paid X number of dollars to KWRI for the royalty fee, and I've paid X number of dollars to KW Cares or FMLS. Like you are running a business. You got to track this stuff. It's kind of akin to, like, let's say you were running a bakery. Do you think you kind of know how much salt and sugar you go through every week? Right? You know how much it costs? Do you know, have you researched to see if you're buying it from the right person? Right? This is like our salt and sugar, if you will. Right? We have to understand how the money works behind the scenes so that we can make sophisticated choices later. Now, I would encourage you to speak to a CPA. I would encourage you to speak to a CPA about the benefits of an LLC. What I was always taught is an LLC it's more of a there's some liability protection, right? And there is ultimately some tax savings, but you're not gonna see a huge amount of tax savings until you get up in like the $80,000 or so of income or more, right? If you're gonna make 20 grand a year, it probably doesn't make a difference, right? But if, I'm assuming that you guys all want to make more than that. This is definitely something that should be on your radar. Do you have to do it before you go build your database? No. Okay. Makes sense? Build your database, learn how to present to people, right? Learn some of the technology, right? Get confident, get out there. The LLC is something that can happen kind of behind the scenes. It's not an incredibly urgent topic. Okay. You all clear on that?
So you're saying, I'm sorry.
Don't say to yourself, oh, well, I'm not an LLC yet, so I can't go call people. Then you'll have an LLC and you won't have any clients. What were you going to say, Sharon?
So you're saying that under the brokerage that we are all under Keller Williams, we can do an LLC. I didn't even know you could do that.
Oh, yeah. Let's back up for a second. You are a business.
Right. Yeah.
Keller Williams is just kind of the umbrella company, if you will. But
sure.
You are an independent contractor in a with a financial agreement with Keller Williams, with your local Market Center. But we encourage you to brand yourself, right? We encourage you to, create a logo and develop your own systems and, right, and have a social media presence and like create standards for how the world will, like, when somebody is considering hiring you and they Google you or look at your social media or whatever, like, what are they going to find? When they look at you and they're considering interviewing you, like, what do you want them to find? Right? Do you support a particular charity? Is there a particular, like, kind of, what's the word I want to use? Like, is there like kind of an emotional side of why somebody might want to do business with you? Like, I was just on a mastermind where this woman, she has a big team out of Texas, I believe, and she provides, I think it's 220 meals per week to families that, or to children technically, that have some type of like assisted lunch program or free lunch program, right? So they eat lunch during the day for free because they qualify, but on Saturday and Sunday, or when it's fall break or whatever, they don't have that food provided for them, right? So she works with an organization that basically prepares all that food and delivers it and all these kind of things, right? And it's completely funded by her real estate sales business. Now, does that kind of want to make you do business with her?
Yes.
That's kind of an example of, like, look, guys, there's 45 something thousand realtors in town. What's the difference between all you guys, right? What's the difference between you, Chelsea, and you, Sharon, and you, Lorinda? I mean, y'all can get me into the house, right? You all can put your sign in the yard. I'm not trying to minimize what you do. I'm just saying you should be thinking about what's so special about you, right? What does somebody get to experience when they get an opportunity to work with you? What does somebody get? What are the perks, if you will, or the benefits? What can people come to expect from you as a past client, right? Do you get like Braves tickets every once in a while? Do you get a handwritten note every once in a while? Do you get a call and says thank you every once in a while? Do you get invited to fall festival? Like, what is it like to be in your like network, if you will, right? Make no bones about it, y'all. Y'all are business owners. You got to start thinking like business owners. You need to read the stuff that business owners read. You need to study the stuff that business owners study. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. With that in mind, have you guys read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book?
I'm reading it.
Okay. Do you guys, do you know the difference between a cost of sale and a operating expense?
Yes.
Not to put you on the spot, but I will anyway. Ryan, what is the difference between those two things?
A cost of sale being an expense that you incur to make a sale happen. Like
sort of.
Like a cost of sale to.
You're very close.
Actually like the marketing, like to sell the house, like the cost of the actual sale, right? And operating costs are more just like your business expenses and your paper and your computer and your other things.
All right, so let me give you an expense, and you tell me based on your definition whether it's an operating expense or a cost of sale. Okay.
Okay.
Photography for a listing.
Cost of
It's a
sale?
cost of sale.
No, that's
No?
an operating expense.
Operating expense, because you need it.
That's the tweak of you were like 99% there. So a cost of sale is an expense that you only incur when there's a sale. So
because you could take the pictures and the house never sold.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Right. So the difference between that would be, let's say, productivity coaching. So productivity coaching is a cost of sale because if you don't have a sale, you don't pay for it, right? Paying the
MLS fees.
FMLS fees would be a cost of sale. MLS fees, Georgia MLS fees would be an expense, right? Because Georgia MLS fees are not production based, they're monthly charged, right? FMLS, you're not going to pay that unless there is a sale. It's only due when there's a sale. So the 6%, for example, is a cost of sale. The 30% is a cost of sale. Going to mega camp is an expense. Paying for photography is an expense. Contract to close, that's an expense. You all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're not familiar with the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that should be your nighttime reading until you basically quit this business. Okay, it is that important. Okay.
I'm reading it really kind of slow so I can absorb it. So I'm not probably that far. I'm just at the 4 elements or something like that. So okay,
The
but thank
4
you.
models.
Yeah, 4 models.
Okay. Can I I'd like to say something about that I'm hopeful will kind of make it a little bit more digestible for you and try to summarize some of the concepts. Is that cool?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so the first model is the economic model.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, what they don't really talk about in the book, which I think is really, really important, is the life by design form, right? Which is, what did I get into this business for? Right? What was my income goal? What was my quality of life goal? How did I want to spend my time? These kind of things, right? So you got to figure that stuff out first. And I can help you with that. Your productivity coach can help you with that. It's basically kind of a blend of your personal budget, your family budget, and your business budget. So what we're trying to essentially help you do is figure out, if I want to, well, actually, let me say it differently. When I take the time to do some dreaming, and I fully fund my business, and I pay my cost of sales, and I pay the appropriate amount of business expenses, and I take my profit and I go on vacation and I reinvest in my business and all that kind of stuff, what is the number of dollars that requires, right? So that would include things like health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, the cost to, pay my monthly bill, the children's tuition, like all that stuff, right? Everything that you got on your heart or that's required of you should go into a list, and you should basically say, based on the fact that I generally get X percentage of commission, and I need to make 200 grand, how many homes do I need to sell? Make sense?
Yep.
So once we have that number, that's really the first ingredient to the book, right? Is what am I aiming for in terms of income? Okay. Then you put that into the economic model. The economic model basically is the connection between the number of, well, it's really the connection between the income and your daily activities.
Okay.
More specifically, appointments. So if I want to make $100,000 based on conversion rates and price range and all that, I need to go on 25 appointments this year.
Hmm.
If I don't go on 25 appointments, the likelihood of me hitting that number is pretty small. If I go on 25 appointments, the likelihood of me hitting that number is very big, right? If I hit 50% of my goal, I'll probably hit 50% of my income goal. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that is the result of the economic model. Let's just say, for example, you need 25 appointments. Then we move on to the lead generation model. The lead generation model essentially says, where are all those people coming from, right? Bill told me I need to meet with 25 people this year. I don't know of anyone that wants to buy or sell yet. Okay, guess what? There's definitely more than 25 people in your local area that will be buying or selling this year or investing this year. Your job is to find them, right? And then so the next topic is what lead generation strategies do you want to execute on in order to find those people? So that could be technology, that could be open houses, that could be, all kinds of different stuff, so that you can generate the appointments that you need to ultimately have the appropriate number of sales, so you can hit your financial goals, right? Next model is budget model, which is a little bit more applicable to what we're talking about today. And that is basically, sorry, I'm not completely distracted. I just want to show you this one form that I'm having the damnedest time finding. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'll pull this up in just a second for you. The budget model is essentially saying, hey, there's going to be money that flows into this organization and money that flows out of this organization. Not only do I want to track it, right, but I also want to make sure that it's essentially appropriate ratios, right? So for example, if you make 40 grand in a year, yet you spend 20,000 on, you know, a branding package or Facebook ads or with Zillow or something, that's not a very good, those numbers don't work very well, right? So there's best practices to help you understand which ratios you should be staying within. And I'll walk you through some of that here in just a second. And then the final model is the organizational model, which is basically to say, wow, there's a lot of stuff that's got to get done in this business, right? We got the buyers, we got the sellers, we got the bookkeeping, we got the sign installers, we got all the marketing pieces, we got the social media, we got all the research and prep, we got all of the you know, studying and appointments and all that kind of stuff. You got it all. And as a one man or a one woman show, those are all your jobs, right? You are the director of marketing for your real estate organization, Sharon. You were also the sign installer, right?
Yeah.
You were also the runner. You were also the buyer's agent, the showing agent, the inside salesperson, the outside salesperson, right? And then you should be asking yourself, number one, do I even know how to be the director of marketing, or should I allow somebody else to do that job, right? Do I get any fulfillment from it? Do I have all the appropriate resources to do it, right? Like, I don't know how to use Microsoft Publisher. I got no eye for design. I suck at making a flyer, right? The flyer's got to get done. The seller expects it, right? So I got a choice. I can either use my time for it or I can use my money for it. Y'all see that? I know I'm kind of like 30,000 foot view today, but I think this is really important that you understand kind of philosophically how to run and think about your business. Is this helpful? Is this eye-opening for anyone?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So the final model is the organizational model. And you should be thinking to yourself, I currently have all of these jobs, and here are the ones that I really enjoy. Let's say door knocking, or, you know, going to the happy hours, or, you know, going on listing appointments, these kind of things. And these are the things I really don't enjoy, right? Stuffing envelopes, you know, tracking all the financials, making flyers, these kind of things, right? You should have an ongoing list of the jobs that ultimately, the second you have enough capital to allow somebody else to do it, that becomes their job. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it possible that somebody could manage your finances for you? Like, let's say you don't want to fill out any spreadsheets or track anything. Okay, so go get yourself a business credit card, and every time you think you're spending money on business, swipe that card, and then at the end of the month, you email your CPA the receipt and say you deal with it. Is that possible? Do you think there's people that do that?
Sure.
Okay. Now, if I was you, I would walk into my CPA's office. I don't have a copy of MREA with me right now, but I'd walk into the CPA's office and I'd say, hey, good to meet you. I'm Sharon Riley. I'm starting a real estate company, and I've partnered with the #1 training organization in the world. And this, let's pretend this is an MREA book, is the blueprint for how I will be running my business. There's something called a budget model in here, and I want you to use that when we're talking. I want all of our systems and tools and accounting and everything to revolve around that model. Are you interested in this job? Because I'll be slamming the real estate business for the next 40 years. Would you like to be my client? Right? And they're like, well, we run our systems off this other software. Oh, so you're not willing to operate off the MREA models and tools? No. Nice to meet you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're the boss. You're the one with the opportunity. Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
Okay, so you say, hey, this is how I want to run things. Now I want you to just go create a spreadsheet so you can tell me how you want the information delivered to you. Right? You want to fax it to you, you want to email it to you, take a picture, you may dump a shoebox on your plate every January. Like, what do you want? And how much is it going to cost? Right? There's been some years where I had a little extra time and I put together the nice little booklet for my CPA, and he sent me a bill for, you know, $700 or whatever. And there's been other years where I said, here, Chris, you deal with it. I ain't got time for this. And he dealt with it. And he sent me a bill for like $1,200, right? And I was cool with it because I didn't want to deal with it. You see what I'm saying? Again, time or money. I think that is almost every single task that comes across my plate right now, I'm thinking to myself, do I want to use my time for this or my money for this? That's how a business owner thinks. Y'all see?
Yes.
Okay. Let me show you, actually, let me show you one other thing first. Any questions while I pull this up? Okay, let me share my screen with you guys. Stop me if you got any questions now, okay?
Okay.
All right, can you see this this thing called the updated budget model?
Yes.
Yes.
So I will download this and put it into the chat here in a minute. Okay, these are, you know, freely, this is nothing, no secrets here, right? What this shows you is essentially the best practices for, hang on. Okay, so GCI of $350,000, what they're saying is cost of sales should be $77,000, roughly 22%. Gross profit, therefore, is 78%. Then you deduct the expenses, which best practices is 35%, and you get your net income. So we talk about a model called the 30-30-40 model at Keller Williams. Roughly 30%, Millionaire Real Estate Agent says 29.2, but let's just call it 30%. 30% cost of sale, 30% business expenses, and 40% profit margin. Have any of you guys ever been a business owner before outside of real estate? Just so you know, 40% profit margin is outrageously high. Outrageously high. Go ask a restaurant owner what their profit margin is. It's probably like 6 or 7%. Okay. So you guys don't know how lucky you are to have it be in a business where your profit margins are 10% or 40%. As a solo agent, your profit margins could be as high as 70, 80%. Okay. And it's staggering. Okay, so this shows you, this is the kind of the broad look. This shows you roughly what should be the expenses and cost of sale as you increase your numbers. Okay, here is a slightly different view of it. How do I? Hang on. Oops. Any questions so far? That's not it. All right, I don't know if I know how to rotate this. Do you guys know how to rotate this? Okay, so
No.
this is an example of a breakdown of the expenses. So before we just said expenses were 30%. This is breaking it down a little further. So I will download this and also attach this to the chat here in momentarily. But this shows you the expenses are generally grouped into the following things: salaries, right? Lead generation, education and coaching, technology and communication, occupancy. Occupancy would be like if you rent an office at the office or something. Supplies, auto and insurance, and equipment. Equipment would be like desk and chairs and that kind of stuff, right? Now, and then it says the average income or average GCI and how that fluctuates based on the percentages that you should have in each of those categories. By the way, just to clarify, this says coaching. This would be coaching that is not results based. Meaning if I bought a MAPS group coaching class for $300, I'm paying for that no matter whether it works or not. That would fall into this. That's an expense. It's not a cost of sale. If I partner up with my productivity coach That's a cost of sale because you don't pay until you close, right? So that's results-based coaching. Is that clear? Yep, that makes sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, let me show you this document here. This, you guys can see this, right? So here's one of the things that I had tracked, a long time ago, which was I'd made a spreadsheet basically, and I said January through December, and then I wrote down all the things that I spent money on, basically. So, and some of this stuff is a little old school, but I'll kind of give you an idea of what some of the stuff would be included, right? Dropbox, right? So I had paying for storage. I was paying $18 or whatever per month. Okay. Conversion, that was a lead generation system I was paying for. BombBomb, that's a video, like a software where you can make videos very easily and share them. I was paying $500 and something a month for that, or $500 and something a year for that. So it's $49 a month. Keeping Current Matters, right? It's a marketing expense. Momentorship, I was paying for some website access from Mo Anderson. It's a few bucks a month. Mighty Text, it allowed me to do like mass texts and stuff. This is prior to Command, okay? Cole Resource Realty, so I could look up people's names and numbers. KW Young Professionals, I was paying for that. Luth, that's my assistant. So in January, I paid her $1,300. In February, I paid her $1,100. March, I paid her $1,100, right? And I was tracking this every single month, right? The majority of this, honestly, she was managing, because I would say, here's my credit card statement. By now, you know what's considered marketing, and you know what's considered, food and entertainment and travel and these kind of things. Let me know if you get any questions, right? So she would fill in this spreadsheet because she knew how, first of all, she helped me create the systems, but she certainly knew how they should be managed, right? So I paid for her family's health insurance, right? Additional salaries, that's when I paid like some, one-off things like, hey, I'm going to pay you to make a flyer, or hey, I'm going to pay you to, stamp some envelopes, or hey, I'm going to pay you to, host an open house or something. Like I had to keep track of that too, obviously. Office fees. So this would include things, my office bill at the market center. That would include things like, copies and binders and that kind of stuff, right? Books, training, education. That's like if I went and bought some books on Amazon, or at this point I was doing a lot of, I still really am, a lot of recruiting. So I owned probably 500 MREA books in my time, right? Bought a case of them, gave them out. Bought another case of them, gave them out. You see what I'm saying? So I was tracking all that. NAR fees, right? Supplies, signs, marketing, food and entertainment, travel, technology, car insurance, my cell phone. Is it fair to say you use your cell phone in the course of business? You can write that off. My CPA was a former auditor, so he is a little less risk. I would tend to be a little bit more risky than him. What's the word? I'm not saying risky, but I have more risk tolerance than him. So I would say a bunch of stuff. He's like, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. Right. So you have to have somebody that's like checking in on you, right? Make sure that you're staying compliant, right? So one of the things that he does not like doing is like home office deductions. That is generally a red flag. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying make sure you speak to somebody who knows how to do it safely. Okay, meaning prevent an audit and these kind of things. Just as a quick heads up. Hang on. Okay, real estate agents are required to pay quarterly estimates. Do you guys know that? Do you know what a quarterly estimate is? So you will pay, if you have a job, they take out your estimated taxes every 2 weeks, right? But you can't just earn all your money all year long and then settle up in April. They expect some of the money ahead of time, right? So each quarter you should be submitting a quarterly estimate to the state and to the federal government for your tax liability. Obviously, they'll settle up at the end if you sent too much or too little. But they want some of the money early, or I shouldn't even say early, on time, right? So you want to make sure that you're connected with a tax guy or CPA or whatever, so that they can help assist you with that and make sure that you're staying compliant with the appropriate amount of money, right? If you underpay, you're going to obviously have to settle up, and you'll have to pay the any type of penalty or whatever. As soon as you start making a bunch of money, that becomes more and more costly. Okay. The next thing is we used to have these things called fax machines. You guys remember those, right? I'm dating myself here, but I used to pay for an e-fax account, basically where I could have a PDF and send it through the system, and it would show up in their fax machine and come out. So I paid for that, a few bucks a month. I had a prepaid legal that I kind of had on what do you call it, on a retainer, if you will. That was a few $100s a year. White pages, I used to look up some information to try to get some contact information for people that I was trying to track down. That was a few bucks a month. I paid for super bill, LLC fees, tax fee. You can deduct the cost that it takes to have an accountant on hand, right, or a CPA on hand. And then I calculated my GCI each month versus my expenses each month, and my profit, and then my percentage of profit, right? So this is the kind of document. And then I did a grand total here where I kind of categorize or group some of this stuff together and said, hey, just to give you an idea, like 2020, what was this, 2017? So give or take, hang on. So give or take that year, I was probably in the neighborhood of $200,000 or whatever, right? So I spent $3,500 on travel, food and entertainment, $2,500, books and entertainment, or books and education, $2,500, tech, $2,500, marketing, $1,500, lead gen, $5,200. Like sometimes you got to spend some cash, right? But these are investments. You're reinvesting in your business. So don't be afraid to spend money. Just make sure that you're staying within the appropriate ratios. Okay. Any questions on that?
What about in the beginning of your career? So I'm before that money, before that line. Tell me about that.
Yeah. I believe, literally, guys, I'm not saying I'm the model citizen here, but you don't have to spend that much money. Again, if you don't, here's let me walk you through something really quickly. There is generally, I want you to think about it like this, okay? You're basically starting here, and we'll do a little, can you guys see that? Is that better? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that.
Let's just say you're here. You make $0. Okay, you just started. So remember, we either have time or money.
Gotcha.
Okay? So if you don't have a lot of time, or if you don't have a lot of money, then hopefully you have a lot of time, right? So you're going to spend your time building your database, practicing your presentations, right? Learning how to use tech efficiently, right? Learning what to say, your scripts, your dialogues, your objection handlers, your market knowledge, right? All that's free. You can go into these houses for the cost of your super key, right?
Mm-hmm.
There should be no excuse why you, quote, don't know the market, right?
Right.
If you tend to work in, let's say, Dunwoody, then you should say to yourself, I'm going to go look at every freaking house in Dunwoody on the market this week. And Monday, I'm going to go look at every single one of them from 200 to 300. And Tuesday, I'm going to look at every single one of them from 300 to 400. And Wednesday, I'm going to look at every single one of them from 400 to 500, right? You can do that.
Right.
There's no excuse why you shouldn't know the market. Right? God forbid somebody, let's say you're showing a condo in Buckhead to somebody and they say, oh, hey, what's that building? And you're like, oh, I don't really know. Really? Okay, so Buyer's a little scared now. His market expert doesn't know anything about the market. And 10 minutes later, you get out and he's like, hey, what's that building? And you're like, I don't really know. And you say, hey, you can just drop me off at the curb. I'm done here. I'm going to go find a realtor who does know. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
how intentional are you being about becoming a great educated agent? Right? If I were to follow you around all day, would I know you were a real estate agent?
Gotcha.
Now, I'm assuming that all of you guys, it would be a very clear yes. But
Yeah.
I believe we all know people who they haven't done a single thing that resembles real estate work all day. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. So as you are building your business and you're making more money, then you start to have less time and more money. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So now you can, this is just my experience. Okay. The tipping point of when I started to pay people to do stuff for me was in the neighborhood of around $125,000 worth of income. Okay. At that point, I was comfortable to write checks and give people the confidence that they could rely on me for what I financially committed to, right? And I started to use my profits to buy back my time, if you will. That's like when you might say, I'm going to have somebody else show these properties for me. I'm going to have somebody else make the flyer. I'm going to have somebody else, create this, piece of collateral or something, right? And I'm not saying it like I'm too good for it. It's that I just have a different job, right?
Right.
Like I don't like inspect the home. I have somebody else inspect the home, right? I don't underwrite the loan. I don't know how to do that, right?
Right.
So it's not like it's like I'm up here and you're down there. It's that you're good and you have the resources to do that job, and I'm good and I have the resources to do this job. So I'm just going to stay over here and you stay over there. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
As I get closer to this number, then I start to say to myself, now I have less time and more money. So now I can start using my money to make some of these tasks go away. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I bring on people to assist me. Ryan, you have a question? It looked like you had a question.
No, I was just thinking about it, but no, I didn't.
Okay, so you asked, what do we do at the beginning, right?
Hmm.
If I was you, I know you guys have, what office is that out of? Or Chelsea and Sharon, I know the others. What office you guys out of?
Atlanta North.
Chelsea?
Chattahoochee North.
Okay, so I know you guys have, or I think you guys have access to like Vulcan 7 and Cole and these kind of things. Like you have some data, so to speak, that you can use, right?
Yes.
Stopping, you're already paying the cell phone bill. You can start making some calls, right?
Right.
Hopefully everyone can afford a couple balloons on the weekend for open houses and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Free to door knock, right? So I would be doing things that get me in front of, people that live in my community without having to pay for it, right?
Gotcha.
The most expensive part of this business is the lead acquisition. That's why Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com and all those players are in business. It's because realtors will pay a pretty significant amount of money for somebody else to generate the lead for them. Y'all follow that?
Yeah.
So the key to it all is to control the lead flow. When you have the skill and the time and the capacity and the systems to go find the leads or go nurture the relationships, then you don't have to pay anyone else to do it for you. Make sense?
Yep.
So I would be doing every single thing I could do for as little money as possible. Probably in my first 10 years in the business, I probably spent less than $1,000 on marketing.
Wow.
Okay, you do not need to spend a bunch of money on stuff. This is a relationship business. The vast majority of the money you should be spending right now is on balloons, coffee dates, handwritten notes, see. Maybe some like printing collateral, that kind of stuff. Little stuff, like super little stuff. You guys got to lead with revenue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, now what turns this into a system, so we can stay on topic, is it's recorded, and ultimately at some point somebody else can manage the system. So if I were just to send this sheet that I showed you with the Dropbox, the Mighty Text and all that, if an assistant came in, I'd say, hey, here's my financial system. This is your job now to manage all this. She said, okay, great. So where do I see, where do you pay for Dropbox? Where do you pay for conversion? Where do you pay for BombBomb? I say, oh, it's this credit card. She said, great. How can I get access to that? So you don't have to worry about it anymore, right? So the template is there. The only discussion we need to have is when it's updated and how to gather all the information, right? And then periodically we should have a discussion on whether this is money well spent. Make sense?
Yes.
All right, what questions do you guys have today?
What is your threshold of looking at, like if you were doing flyers, is it like 3 months? When do you decide this is a good investment?
One other thing I should have mentioned is I am probably I'm probably willing to share profits in exchange for time, much looser and much earlier than I would recommend for a new agent.
Okay.
I do believe in the power of leverage. I definitely do. As long as you make good use of the time that you're freeing up, by, let's say, hiring a contract to close person, I would do that right away. Because again, that is a cost of sale. You don't have to pay for it until you have a sale, right? So if somebody else can manage that stuff for me, then it's well worth it because there's no upfront risk, right? Signing like a year commitment to some lead gen website that costs 10 grand, that's a whole different story. Right? So I think that those are the kind of things right off the bat that you should feel comfortable doing, things that only you have to pay for when the deal closes. Obviously, don't go hog wild, but I think that having somebody put the listing in is okay. Obviously, paying for photography is okay, or is needed. Paying for, like a closing gift, for example, or some handwritten notes and these kind of things. Like, I think that stuff is okay. I would just be weary of long-term financial commitments, and I would be weary of anything that has 4 digits, right? We used to have a policy at the market center with Aaron and I when I was team leader. I said, I can spend $100 without asking anyone. If I want to spend over $100, I need to check with Aaron, and she'll tell me if I'm in line or not. And if I want to spend over $1,000, I need to check with Andy and Aaron. Right? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like there maybe should be some thresholds that say, hey, I can spend $50 on anything I want. If I want to spend $100, I need to talk to my coach about it. If I want to spend $1,000, I need to talk to my spouse and my coach about it. You see what I'm saying? It's like to have some kind of like step up thresholds about where to make sure that I'm behaving myself and I'm not just getting like, goo eyes because somebody had a great presentation and I happen to have just had a closing or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, my intention is for you guys to meet me in this room, and each week we can talk about anything you want. When I was asked to do this, the first thing that came to my mind was helping people develop systems. And I'm more than happy to, develop lots of systems with you. Just an example of a few others might be a buyer system, a seller system, a record keeping system, a profit share system, a people system, a database system, these kind of things like an open house system. Like, what do we do prior to the open house? What did we do day of the open house? What do we do following the open house? Right? How do we track and follow up with people so we make sure that nothing slips through the cracks? I used to have a renter system. I built my business in large part working with renters way long time ago. And at one point I had literally like hundreds and hundreds of renters, some of which I placed, some of which I didn't place, but I knew when their leases were expiring, right?
Mhm.
Because even if I didn't get paid to help them, I said, hey, so you sign a 1-year lease, 2-year lease, 3-year lease? They say, oh, I signed a 2-year lease. Great. So that lease is going to expire in May of 2012. Is that right? Yes. Perfect. And so I had a little ongoing list of all the people that I was courting and all the times that their lease is expiring. And then I'd look at that every single month and I'd say, hey, these are the 8 people who I know's leases are expiring in May of 2012. Kathy, go pre-qual them all. Right? Or, hey, you like where you live? You gonna renew your lease? You want me to show you anything else? Have you considered purchasing? Right? And that kind of became my pipeline. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Expense, when things fall through the cracks in our business, guys, it's expensive. Is it not? I mean,
Yeah.
aren't our paychecks pretty big? One call or one lack of a call could be the difference between earning $0 and earning a couple $100,000, right?
Right.
All right. I will, let me, I'm gonna pop these sheets in the chat and give you guys a minute or two to grab them and download them. I will also post my cell phone number, or actually I'll post my email here. If you guys have any questions you want to ask privately or anything that was unclear from today, feel free to reach out. And I just want you guys to know you're in the right place. There ain't no better place to run your real estate business than Keller Williams. I want to applaud you for investing in yourself, being a part of productivity coaching, and you guys have some great leaders around you. Just take advantage of it, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.